Have you ever wondered why some people manage to achieve extraordinary success while others seem to struggle? What if I told you that the secret lies not in grand, sweeping actions but in the tiny, seemingly insignificant choices we make every day? Picture this: the British cycling team, once so underwhelming that a top bike manufacturer refused to provide them with equipment, fearing damage to their brand reputation. Then, a new coach steps in, Dave Brailsford, armed with a simple yet revolutionary strategy: the aggregation of marginal gains. Instead of trying for a radical overhaul, Brailsford focused on tiny 1% improvements in everything. From tweaking bike seats to rubbing alcohol on tires for better grip, nothing was too small to escape his attention. Even the riders' clothing and workout responses were minutely examined and adjusted. And the result? These minuscule changes, seemingly insignificant on their own, gradually compounded into a formidable force. British cycling experienced a renaissance, winning 60% of the gold medals at the London Olympics and dominating the Tour de France 5 times in 6 years. This is the power of habits, the compound interest of self-improvement. Just as a small shift in an airplane's route can lead it to a completely different destination, tiny changes in our daily habits can steer our lives in dramatically different directions. Success, you see, isn't a product of once-in-a-lifetime transformations. It's the result of daily habits, choices we make every moment. And the outcomes we see, be it our net worth or our health, are simply lagging measures of these habits. Scene script: time, the great magnifier, multiplies whatever we feed it. Feed it good habits, and it will compound them into productivity, knowledge, and strong relationships. But feed it stress, negative thoughts, and outrage, and it will compound them into serious health issues. But here's the catch: habits often seem to make no difference until we reach a critical threshold. Like a bamboo tree spending 5 years building an extensive root system before shooting 90 feet into the air within 6 weeks, habits need to persist long enough to break through what I call the plateau of latent potential. So, if you find yourself struggling to build a good habit or break a bad one, don't lose heart. You're likely just in the valley of disappointment, where it feels like you're making no progress. But remember, the breakthrough moment is often the result of many previous actions, quietly building up the potential required to unleash a major change. In conclusion, never underestimate the power of small, daily habits. They are the silent architects of our lives, subtly shaping our destinies one decision at a time. And as we've seen with the British cyclists, when these habits are focused and consistently applied, there's no limit to what we can achieve.
Have you ever pondered why mountains never complain about the wind or the rain or the snow? They stand tall, embracing the change of seasons, the shift in weather, the passing of time. Or consider the caterpillar, spending weeks in the confines of a chrysalis, only to emerge as a creature of immense beauty, a butterfly. Change, it seems, is an inevitable part of life, and yet so often we resist it, fear it, avoid it. But what if we embraced it instead? Imagine standing in the locker room of the San Antonio Spurs. The air is thick with anticipation. The coach, a seasoned veteran, shares an anecdote about a stonecutter tirelessly hammering away at his rock. 100 blows, maybe more, and not a single crack appears. But then, on the 101st strike, the rock splits in two. It wasn't the final blow that did the trick, but all the ones before it. Change, like that rock, can sometimes take a while to show up, but when it does, it's monumental. Now let's delve into the heart of the matter: goals and systems. Goals are the results you want to achieve. Systems, on the other hand, are the processes that lead to those results. For instance, if you're a coach, your goal may be to win a championship. Your system is how you recruit players, manage assistant coaches, and conduct practice. The real essence of long-term thinking is not about reaching a particular goal, but rather focusing on the cycle of continuous improvement. The commitment to the process determines the progress. After all, we don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. But why is changing our habits such a challenge? It's because we often try to change the wrong things, or go about it the wrong way. Change can occur on 3 distinct levels. First, changing outcomes, which is about altering results. Second, changing your process, which involves modifying habits and systems. Third, the deepest level of change, changing your identity, which entails transforming beliefs, self-image, and judgment about oneself. Here's where it gets interesting. Outcomes are about what you get. Processes are about what you do. Identity is about what you believe. All levels of change offer their unique benefits, but the direction of the change matters. The common approach is to focus on outcome-based habits, but the alternative, focusing on identity-based habits, can be far more effective. Why? Because true behavior change is identity change. Sure, motivation might kickstart a habit, but the reason you'll stick with it is that it becomes part of your identity. Your behaviors reflect your identity. What you do indicates the type of person you believe you are. The deeper a thought or action ties to your identity, the harder it is to change. The largest barrier to positive change, whether at an individual, team, or organizational level, is identity conflict. Your identity doesn't come preset at birth. Each belief is learned and conditioned through experience. The more you repeat a behavior, the more you reinforce the identity tied to that behavior. Changing your habits can lead to changing your identity. The most practical way to change who you are is to change what you do. So, like those mountains enduring the elements, or the caterpillar transforming into a butterfly, embrace change. Embrace the process of continuous improvement. Because change, my friends, is not just inevitable, it's a path to becoming the best version of ourselves. Have you ever wondered why habits form, or how it's possible that some people can effortlessly maintain healthy diets, exercise regularly, or keep their homes clean and organized? The answer lies in understanding what a habit is and how it is formed. A habit is a behavior that has been repeated enough times to become automatic. It's like a mental shortcut learned from experience, a memory of steps that have previously solved a problem. Behavioral scientist Jason Hreha puts it succinctly: habits are simply reliable solutions to recurring problems in the environment. When you encounter a new situation, your brain enters a phase of trial and error to decide how to respond. Over time, as you face the same problem repeatedly, your brain begins to automate the process of solving it. With each repetition, the level of brain activity decreases, reducing cognitive load and freeing up mental capacity for other tasks. Essentially, building habits now allows you to do more of what you want in the future. Now, the process of building a habit can be broken down into 4 simple steps: cue, craving, response, and reward. This 4-step pattern is the backbone of every habit, and your brain runs through these steps in the same order each time. First, there's a cue, a bit of information that predicts a reward. This cue triggers your brain to initiate a behavior. For example, your phone buzzing could be a cue that you've received a message. Next comes the craving, which is the motivational force behind every habit. It's not the habit itself you crave, but the change in state it delivers. For instance, you don't crave smoking a cigarette. You crave the feeling of relief it provides. Third is the response, the actual habit you perform. This response can take the form of a thought or action, and it depends on your ability and the friction associated with the behavior. Finally, there's the reward. The response delivers a reward, the end goal of every habit. Rewards satisfy us and teach us which actions are worth remembering in the future. However, if any of these 4 stages are insufficient, the behavior won't become a habit. If there's no cue, the habit won't start. If there's no craving, there's no motivation to act. If the behavior is too difficult, you won't be able to do it. And if the reward fails to satisfy your desire, you'll have no reason to do it again in the future. Understanding these 4 steps, cue, craving, response, and reward, and how they form a neurological feedback loop, also known as the habit loop, can help you create good habits and break bad ones. To create a good habit, make the cue obvious, the craving attractive, the response easy, and the reward satisfying. To break a bad habit, simply invert these rules. So, the next time you find yourself struggling to form a good habit or break a bad one, remember these 4 steps. With the right understanding and application of them, creating good habits and breaking bad ones can become a lot easier than you might think.
Imagine this: your brain, that intricate web of neurons, is a masterful prediction machine. It's constantly absorbing your environment, analyzing, making connections, and predicting outcomes. It's like a museum curator, able to spot a fake masterpiece just by a glance, or a paramedic who can assess a patient's condition with a single look. Renowned psychologist Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And that's exactly what we're delving into today. Have you ever wondered how Japanese railway operators maintain such a high level of safety? They utilize a technique known as pointing and calling. It's a ritual of pointing at various objects and calling out commands. Signal is green, all clear, and so on. Every detail gets identified, pointed at, and named aloud. It may sound absurd, but this practice cuts errors by up to 85% and accidents by 30%. It's effective because it elevates the awareness from a subconscious habit to a conscious level. Let's move on to the habit scorecard. It's an exercise to become more aware of your behavior. You create a list of your habits, marking each with a positive, negative, or neutral sign, depending on whether it's beneficial, detrimental, or neutral. But remember, there are no good or bad habits, only effective ones. The key question to ask is, does this behavior help me become the person I wish to be? The first step in changing habits is spotting them. The journey of behavioral change begins with awareness. Next, we have implementation intention. It's a premeditated plan about when and where to act on a particular habit. It's a strategy that helps us stick to our goals. Instead of vague intentions like "I want to work out more" or "I want to be more productive," we create a concrete plan of action. The formula is simple. I will act in. For example, I will exercise for 1 hour at 5 p.m. in my local gym. Being specific about your plans helps you resist distractions and stay focused. Now, consider the Diderot effect, which suggests that a new possession can trigger a spiral of consumption leading to additional purchases. But this connectedness can be used to our advantage when building new habits. One of the best ways to cultivate a new habit is to stack it onto an existing one. This is known as habit stacking. Instead of pairing a new habit with a time and location, you pair it with an existing habit. The formula is after I will. In summary, changing habits requires awareness and strategic planning. Techniques like pointing and calling, habit scorecard, implementation intention, and habit stacking can significantly enhance this process. Remember, your brain is a prediction machine. By consciously directing it, you can shape your destiny rather than leaving it to fate.
Ever wondered why you sometimes buy things you never planned on buying, or why certain habits seem so hard to break? Well, it all comes down to a fascinating science known as habit formation. Imagine this. You're in a store and you see a product for the first time. Suddenly you visualize a need for it. This is what we call impulse buying. It's not that you wanted the product, but rather how it was presented to you that sparked the impulse. The same principle applies to habit formation. If you want to make a habit a big part of your life, make the cue or trigger a big part of your environment. The most persistent behaviors usually have multiple cues. Now let's talk about eliminating bad habits. One practical way is to reduce exposure to the cue that causes it. For example, if you're constantly distracted by your phone, try leaving it in another room for a few hours. This practice inverts the first law of behavior change, making the cue invisible rather than obvious. High self-control individuals tend to spend less time in tempting situations, making it easier to avoid temptation than resist it. However, it's important to remember that self-control is a short-term strategy, not a long-term one. Moving on to the second law of behavior change, make it attractive. The more attractive an opportunity is, the more likely it is to become habit-forming. This is because habits are a dopamine-driven feedback loop. When dopamine rises, so does our motivation to act. Interestingly, it's the anticipation of rewards, not the fulfillment of them, that gets us to take action. The greater the anticipation, the greater the dopamine spike. Ever heard of temptation bundling? It's a strategy that works by linking an action you want to do with an action you need to do. You could even combine it with habit stacking, like getting your morning coffee, saying something you're grateful for, and then reading the news. Our cultural environment also plays a significant role in determining which behaviors are attractive to us. We typically imitate the habits of 3 social groups: the close, like family and friends, the many, or our broader social circle, and the powerful, those with status and prestige. If you want to build better habits, one effective strategy is to join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. Remember, the normal behavior of the tribe usually overpowers the desired behavior of the individual. Finally, to break a bad habit, make it unattractive. highlight the benefits of avoiding the habit to make it seem unattractive. Remember, every behavior has a surface-level craving and a deeper underlying motive, and the cause of your habits is the prediction that precedes them. So, there you have it, the fascinating science of habit formation simplified. Remember these key points. Make good habit cues obvious and bad ones invisible. Make a habit attractive. Utilize temptation bundling and habit stacking, and join a culture where your desired habit is the norm. And most importantly, make bad habits unattractive. Happy habit forming. Ever found yourself trapped in the labyrinth of finding the perfect plan for change? Like a traveler lost in the desert, the mirage of the best approach often leads us astray. We become so enamored with the idea of the perfect path that we forget to take the first step. As the wise Voltaire once said, the best is the enemy of good. Consider this. There's a marked difference between being in motion and taking action. Imagine a hamster running endlessly on a wheel. It's in motion, yes, but it's not getting anywhere. That's what happens when we're planning, strategizing, learning. These are valuable, yes, but they don't produce a result. On the other hand, action is like the hamster finally deciding to step off the wheel and explore the cage. It's the behavior that will deliver an outcome. For instance, outlining 20 ideas for articles is motion, but the act of writing one article is action. Motion allows us to feel like we're making progress without running the risk of failure. Now, conventional wisdom might lead you to believe that motivation is the key to habit change, but every habit is actually just an obstacle to what you really want. The greater the obstacle, the more friction there is between you and your desired end state. That's why it's crucial to make your habits so easy that you'll do them even when you don't feel like it. We humans are creatures of convenience, always gravitating towards the option that requires the least amount of work. It's like water flowing down a hill. It always takes the path of least resistance. So, to change our habits, we need to design an environment where doing the right thing is as easy as possible. Reduce the friction associated with good behaviors. When friction is low, habits are easy. Conversely, increase the friction associated with bad behaviors. When friction is high, habits are difficult. Habits are like crossroads. They might take only a few seconds to complete, but they determine the direction of your day, productive or unproductive. That's why it's important to master these decisive moments. The 2-minute rule can be a guide here. It states, when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. As you master the art of showing up, the first 2 minutes simply become a ritual at the beginning of a larger routine. A commitment device is a choice you make in the present that controls your actions in the future. It's like a pact you make with yourself to bind you to good habits and restrict you from bad ones. It's a way to take advantage of good intentions before you fall victim to temptation. The ultimate way to lock in future behavior is to automate your habits. Technology can be a powerful ally in this. It's like Riddy's incorruptible cashier, a machine that automatically locks the cash and receipts inside after each transaction. To break a bad habit, make it impractical to do. Increase the friction until you don't even have the option to act. It's like putting a barricade on a road you don't want to take anymore. In summary, don't get lost in the mirage of the best approach. Understand the difference between motion and action. Make your habits easy to do and hard to ignore. Use the 2-minute rule to start new habits, and consider using commitment devices and technology to lock in future behavior. And most importantly, design your environment to make it easy to do what's right and hard to do what's not. Remember, the path of least resistance is the route of choice for all of us.
Have you ever wondered why certain habits stick while others simply fade away? What if I told you that satisfaction plays a crucial role in the formation and retention of habits? Picture this. You're on a journey, a path of personal development. As you walk this path, you come across 4 laws of behavior change. The first 3 laws tell you to make your desired habit obvious, attractive, and easy. These laws set the stage, but the 4th law is the one that ensures your performance gets an encore. It whispers in your ear, make it satisfying. You see, the human brain is a fascinating piece of machinery. It's wired to prioritize immediate rewards over delayed ones. This is why we're more likely to repeat behaviors that bring immediate satisfaction. It's a cardinal rule of behavior change. What we immediately reward, we repeat. What we immediately punish, we avoid. But life isn't always about instant gratification. Some of the most rewarding habits require patience and persistence. The road less traveled is often the one of delayed gratification. It might be a challenging path, but it's also one with less competition and often bigger payoffs. And the good news? We can train ourselves to delay gratification, to add a dash of immediate pleasure to the habits that pay off in the long run, and a pinch of immediate pain to the ones that don't. Now, one of the most satisfying feelings in the world is the feeling of making progress. And that's where habit trackers come into play. They're simple tools that provide clear evidence of your progress, making your habits more satisfying. But remember, it's essential not to let the measure become the target. The aim is to focus on the process rather than the result. So, what happens when a habit doesn't bring satisfaction? The inverse of the fourth law comes into play. Make it unsatisfying. We're less likely to repeat a bad habit if it's painful or unsatisfying. Having an accountability partner can create an immediate cost to inaction. After all, we care deeply about what others think of us. A habit contract can add a social cost to any behavior, making the cost of violating your promises public and painful. But remember, the secret to maximizing your odds of success is to choose the right field of competition. Habits are easier to perform and more satisfying to stick with when they align with your natural inclinations and abilities. In summary, the fourth law of behavior change, making it satisfying, is a powerful tool in your arsenal for personal development. It's about finding the balance between immediate and delayed gratification, tracking your progress without getting consumed by it, and making bad habits unsatisfying. It's about choosing the right habits that align with your unique strengths. So the next time you're trying to form a habit, remember to make it satisfying.
Have you ever wondered why our brains gravitate towards challenges yet quickly grow bored of routine tasks? Well, it's all part of our complex human nature, and today we're going to delve into this fascinating paradox. In a world that constantly pushes us to reach our limits, it's important to understand that our brains thrive best when working on tasks that are just beyond our current abilities. This concept, known as the Goldilocks rule, suggests that peak motivation is achieved when we're neither under-challenged nor overwhelmed, but instead operating right on the edge of our skill set. But here's the catch. As we repeat tasks and they become routine, our interest wanes. This is where the greatest threat to success comes in, not failure, but boredom. Enter the flow state, a term you've probably heard thrown around in discussions about productivity and peak performance. The flow state, simply put, is that magical zone where you're fully immersed in an activity, losing track of time and self-consciousness. It's that sweet spot where the task at hand is just about 4% beyond your current ability. But the road to excellence isn't lined with constant excitement. It's the ability to keep going even when the task becomes mundane that sets the best apart. Consider top athletes. It's not just genetics, luck, or talent that makes them exceptional. It's their ability to handle the boredom of daily training, to find fascination in repetition, to fall in love with the mundane. They're professionals, sticking to the schedule even when life gets in the way. However, there's a flip side to this coin. While habits allow us to perform tasks without thinking, they can also lead us into a trap of complacency. We may think we're improving because of experience, when in reality, we're only reinforcing existing habits. Mastery requires not just habits, but deliberate practice. It's about constantly reflecting, reviewing, and fine-tuning your performance. This process of reflection and review is crucial, not just for improving habits, but also for evolving our identity. After all, growth becomes difficult when we cling too tightly to a particular identity. So, what's the ultimate goal? It's not about making a single 1% improvement, but rather stacking up thousands of these tiny improvements. Each one is like adding a grain of sand to the positive side of the scale, slowly tilting things in your favor. Success, as it turns out, is not a finish line to cross, but a system to improve, an endless process to refine. It's a journey of continuous improvement, where small habits don't just add up, they compound. And it's truly remarkable what you can build if you just don't stop. In summary, the human brain thrives on challenges that push the boundaries of our abilities, yet it also yearns for the comfort of routine. The trick is to find that sweet spot in the flow state, maintain discipline in the face of boredom, and continuously refine our habits and identity. After all, success is not a destination, but a journey of endless improvement.